Welcome to Spooky Stories. We're your hosts, Jackie and Martha. For the next 11 days leading up to Halloween, we'll be sharing spooky stories, but not always spooky, from books and periodicals within the collections here at Seton Hall University. We'll start off with reading the story, and then we'll follow it up with some commentary. It's day 8 of Spooky Stories, and we are again going to switch it up. We are not bringing you a typical spooky story or a piece of folklore, but rather a spooky piece of history related not only to books, but clothing and art. We have here with us today Laura Hapke, our resident collections manager for the Walsh Gallery, and some repeat commentators and even some new commentators. So introduce yourselves. They're just pointing at each other.
Hi, I'm Jenna Elise. I work upstairs in the collection development team.
Hi, I'm Natalie Lau. I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian.
I'm Michael Murphy. I'm the Diplomacy Librarian.
I'm Quinn Christie, the Public Services Archivist.
I'm Laura Hapke, the Collections Manager.
Thank you for
Hi
introducing
guys, welcome. I'm so happy you're all here. We got a full house today.
Yes.
Dude, we're almost out of mics.
We are.
We are.
technically.
All right, so we'll start off with Scheele's green, because that is the poisonous green, invented in 1775 by Carl Wilhelm Scheele, a German-Swedish pharmaceutical chemist. The green he developed became widely used pigment for about half the 19th century, until it fell out of favor for being toxic and for its instability when exposed to other
I
chemicals.
think that's valid.
Yeah,
It is
when did they
valid.
discover that it was toxic?
They knew in Scheele
Like,
knew
they
that it
had
was
to
toxic.
know. He's a chemist.
Yeah, he knew. It's just that unfortunately it was really marketable and there was a need
I
for
mean,
it.
it was
And they were
also
like,
so
it's a little
vibrant too.
It's
like,
like
it was
little
so
toxic.
good.
I'm
It's
curious
kind of
about
like
the production
asbestos.
costs as well.
Oh, it's
Was
very
it
cheap.
A cheap item to.
Well, because this is all like turn of the century, like Industrial Revolution, like trying to bring these goods at a high,
Yeah, so
like
you use
to a high
like,
volume of
a
people.
little bit of the pigment, and it just like you can produce a lot of paint or whatever. You could use it in a lot of things. There's that probably not supposed. It probably shouldn't have had a lot of applicable uses, but it did because it was so vibrant and like so vivid. So it could be like used very easily for like marketing.
It was also like
posters.
the best like leafy green color they had. Everything else was kind
Yeah.
of muddy often, especially with the natural dyes. Whereas like Scheele's green and then later Paris green, which is the same base, just a slightly different color. Like those were beautiful greens. Like they're
Mhm.
genuinely gorgeous, but they're not great.
And these were great. They would use them not just for books and everything, but in clothing.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
It was. I think the book thing is more of a recent phenomenon that we're learning about too.
Yeah.
So it is still like a developing field, but yeah, they used to use it in garments, it's in wallpaper. We were just talking about earlier,
Mhm.
like it probably didn't help Napoleon's dying situation back then.
dying.
Napoleon catching strays.
Yeah, I think like
Yes.
I think the most high profile like version of talking about Scheele's green really is from wallpaper. Like people were really
Yeah.
talking about that a lot, and like
Mhm.
kids who were sleeping in green rooms would get sick and they were like, why is this happening? Even though we know arsenic is poison and the paper is full of arsenic, I don't know why this is happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that and people would wear clothes dyed with Scheele's green and come home with like sores and stuff like that because the arsenic would, leach onto your skin.
Yeah.
So
some of these diagrams, maybe I can post on on them if with a content warning, maybe of just like all these lesions on
Mhm.
people's
Mm.
hands.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving Shrek.
yeah, and I'm sure some of that's from like manufacture too, but even
Yeah.
just wearing it wasn't great.
Yeah. So the books
Fun
that we have,
talks.
do they have Scheele's green in them?
I don't know. We'd need a special thing to take a peek. And
Oh, so we don't even know.
Oh.
It's XRF, so
yeah.
some labs
And-
would have it, chemistry labs would have
Yeah,
it.
except our chemistry lab doesn't. I already asked.
Well, so it is. I'm assuming toxic and dangerous to be touching. I know that like
Well,
Over time.
Well,
so it was just like
yeah,
over
so-
time.
Yeah.
I know that when it comes to, which is a little different.
I went down the rabbit hole of death clocks. I was saying before that a lot of these clocks are completely safe once the paints were dried and done, but it was often dangerous for those creating them. You know, the saying of like Mad as a Hatter and things like that. A lot of like the actual consumers were fine, but the creators weren't. So I'm curious if that's the case with these books.
That's definitely more the case, I feel like, with the manufacturing being more dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think the books are also less dangerous than something like wallpaper or your clothing that you're going to be in constant contact with.
It's also like it's probably degraded a lot by now, so
Well,
the handling.
But they're
I mean,
still
the arsenic.
technically
Yeah,
dangerous because
yeah,
I mean,
but you're not like
even
licking it.
No.
Yeah,
I don't know
no.
about
You're
you.
washing your hands after. Well,
Well, yeah, you should be washing your hands technically after you touch any book.
Yeah.
and-
that's
Just-
who follows that.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming there are
Diversity
guidelines
there.
to touching any type of historic or archives material
Yeah.
you're using.
I mean,
Protections and-
generally
often
they're
you'll
just
wear
Well,
gloves.
paper materials you don't.
Really?
well,
Only
unless
if
it's
you think they're
photographs.
gonna poison you.
Yeah.
Like you,
Yeah,
you
like
can
the
wear
same
them
thing.
for your
Yeah.
own protection.
Well,
Isn't
also
it
though,
like
like-
it's kind of, well, I don't know, it's kind of 50-50 with wearing nitrile gloves with paper now because it just leads to more tears. typically,
Yes.
with materials.
Yeah,
But-
that's
Yeah, I
what
think
I
it's-
was taught
Yeah.
when like handling paper materials in like in the archives is that you don't want to wear gloves because you don't feel like how rough your fingers are or how hard you're handling the materials.
Mhm.
So you just have to wash your hands. Like at Gilderlehrman, we would wash our hands
Yeah.
Yeah.
constantly
Yeah.
with this soap that like stripped all the oil out of your hands.
Yeah.
That it was the weirdest. My skin crawls thinking about
I
that
feel like
feeling.
archivists have like the best hand cream recommendations.
Well,
Yeah.
you actually have to be careful though.
You can't wear the hand cream.
You can't, but no, it's when you're like leaving
But,
for
like,
the day.
afterwards.
And
Yeah.
in the winter, it's just like paper cuts all the
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that, yeah, with new books because I process them, so you get paper cuts and
Yeah.
stickers, and your hands feel.
Oh.
I have calluses on my hand from like stickering new books, so I feel like I get that.
Yeah, library. It's hard labor.
It is
It is.
hard labor.
It's
working in a
hidden. It's
library.
hidden labor too.
But
Well,
Laura, in museums though, you're always supposed to wear gloves.
Yeah, so
really.
in museums, you're always supposed to wear gloves.
Mhm.
And when we're getting trained, really, a lot of the information is that, like, this is mostly for the objects because most things aren't going to hurt you. But it's also for us, too, because we have a lot of poisons that show up that we could be in contact with. Like, a lot of things used to be made out of lead. You run into
Right.
lead a lot. And then with any sort of like often anthropological collections or taxidermy or anything like that, that's all full of often full of arsenic and other poisons. There's a lot of talk about how anthropological collections used to be treated with really dangerous pesticides that are now still around. And we often don't know whether or not things were treated with them because people didn't write down that they were doing that kind of maintenance. So that's another thing where you don't, it's sort of like with your bright green books where like you can suspect that something might be toxic there, but you don't necessarily know unless you call in a scientist and get it tested and actually find out.
But also the arsenic does decay. So it does change a little bit of color because I got the poison bookmark from Winterthur
Yeah.
actually. So I do have that, and they have all the different greens listed.
yeah,
it's
no,
very-
when I was at Princeton and they were showing me the ones that they suspected, I was like, oh, but these are not as vivid as I would think. And they're like, well, they're pretty old. So they're just, we think it is based on the age and like the edition that it is and all of that. But the color, it is symptomatic of the degraded arsenic in the binding. And I was like, that is so cool because this thing literally just looks beige. But it had a little sticky note with a little skull and crossbones on it. So I was like, okay, I trust you guys. This is in the conservation lab, so they probably know what they're
A lot of podcasting going on.
Hello, Dean Bushman. You are on now.
doing. We're talking about poison books.
Yeah.
Do you have any input?
Any
Special
poison
guests?
books?
Yeah.
No, I just go to Jackie.
Yeah. Well, we also might have chromium, cobalt, lead, definitely. That'd all be
Lead definitely, of course.
probably be down here. Lead was for red. So was mercury. Or white, too. I think lead was
Yeah,
also
chromium.
white.
Lead is white, yeah.
uranium.
Yeah.
or-
And I get to touch all those books.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
But I'm not licking them.
But that's the
Not
most
licking
important
them.
thing.
Wait, that also brings me to reason why Laura is also here, because Laura is my fellow. What is this? And you just smell or touch,
Yeah.
and then it's like you touch and you're like, wow, like I had
These
no.
are not the best practices.
No,
No,
like,
they
this-
aren't.
Do not try this
Oh,
out.
we'll
But
have a
this is
conversation
Laura and
later
I's
that we're
practice
gonna
of
watch.
just being like, hey, what is this weird sludgy stuff you have in the vault? And you just go, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but look at it.
Yeah.
Waft it.
Well,
Waft your finger.
This
Jackie
is
will
based on
bring
a
me-
true story.
Jackie will bring me papers and be like, hey, Laura, do you think this is mold? And I'll go, yeah, I think that's mold.
I mean, I did that the other day upstairs. Less dangerous if we got a box set of a new book, and I took the book out and I go, "This smells kind of weird." And I go to Rob. Rob, smell this.
Oh my god.
Just stick it in his face.
I really want, when I was doing the microfiche at Princeton, I was really hoping I'd find like some vinegar syndrome, but they all got weeded like
Oh.
before for like all that before. I really wanted to smell.
We have
Jackie's
some down
pointing.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We also
I'd
had-
love to see.
We also had nitrate film.
oh,
apparently. Yeah.
the exploding
That's
kind.
down here for many years.
That was here of many years.
That-
and
I
was
found that
starting to
one.
get one of the critical smells.
Oh no.
Burst into flames.
Yeah, I
Have you
found
ever
that with Tracy.
Kits,
Kids.
like
Test-
medical kits.
No.
World War II.
No.
Bomb shelters.
I have
yeah.
those in my office if you guys need.
No.
First aid kits.
You know, aspirin from fallout
No.
shelter kits turns like
That'd
bad.
be great.
Mhm.
Because a lot of it, I mean,
Yeah.
not bad to take for a headache, but like
Poisonous.
Yeah.
bad.
I probably
Poisonous
wouldn't
bad.
take that now. For
Didn't Gilder? Didn't we used to? Didn't we have some like World War II stuff that still had like the rations in there? It was like the
that's
Oh,
what I'm
like
talking
no.
about. That's what I'm talking about.
No, we had a I think it was a Civil War era hardtack.
Yeah.
That it just sort of I mean, it was probably mostly sawdust to begin with,
Yeah.
so it just stayed exactly the way it was for however many 150 years or so.
Fantastic.
Was it worm eaten?
And-
That was always the
It was nothing
complaint during
eaten. Nobody ate
the-
it.
No, but
No.
so the worms wouldn't even eat it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got an MRE from Desert Storm in my car right now.
That's cool.
That's fantastic.
My mom stuck it in there. My mom is former Air Force, so she just stuck it in there and said, "Here, if you're ever in an emergency." I'm like,
If you're in an
What would I
emergency,
do,
would
beat
you
someone to
actually
death?
eat it?
I mean, I think it's still good technically.
Maybe.
I mean, at least it'll make it warm.
There's like water in it, so like,
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Laura mentioned Paris green specifically, and that triggered, a little spark somewhere in the chaos of my brain. I wrote a blog post for Rutgers when I was interning for a different thing there, and it was based on the New Jersey digital newspapers, which are fantastic. I was following a murder case through them. It was two daughters. Turns out they poisoned their mother with poison
Oh.
candy. It was arsenic laced, and
Okay.
they bought it as Paris green. So I'm wondering how the mother just like didn't notice, like, oh, this has got a weird shade of green, but maybe she thought it was pistachios.
She kind of thought it was dyed.
She's the one who tastes this stuff.
No, I said I didn't lick it. I just touched it.
you got real close to licking it.
You talk
Thought about it.
No, actually, it didn't.
Are you leaving us, Dean Bushman?
gave it to Laura to taste.
Poke and prod and
Yeah.
taste.
I'm leaving now. I just
Oh.
wondered what you guys were up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just come
Well,
into
it'll-
any
we are
open
full.
recording session at any time. Just
Yeah.
walk right in. You don't need
Yeah.
to.
Audio in
You
any
guys need one of
way.
the green lights.
Big lights say recording.
Bye.
Bye. Maybe in the Reno.
Well,
Hey, it was her tea.
I also to go
Get
back
closer
to
from me.
Paris Green and these.
The topic.
I think because I can't believe I, of all people, am the one that's reining this in right now.
Yeah.
Can you be proud of me?
No, I am, because
Thanks.
it's between the two of us. I'm glad you got it.
But I think it's just I kind of love how the profit of this just was over oh god, I don't know.
No one look
Someone
at her,
else
no
talk.
one look
I
at
can't
her.
talk right now. It's just like it's profit over health Yeah,
it's the issue of
Oh, yeah.
beauty
And also, but
yeah.
it's also like how it must have been like, oh, how do you not know the candy is so
Oh,
kind of
sorry.
striking looking?
correction. It
It's
was
like
tea.
it's fashion.
It was
Oh,
for
it's
tea.
Oh, it was
Yeah, that was a different one. There
But
were
I can
there were
totally
two murders I was
see-
following apparently in this blog post.
I can totally see myself not questioning anything for the sake of aesthetic. Where I'm like, well, no, I'm gonna carry around this book.
What
I'm
if
gonna
it
wear
was
this
a
fabric
green
because I look
teacup?
so good in it.
It could have
Green
been.
teacup, green tea matcha, you know.
Mhm.
But also like it's the play Arsenic and Lace about like the wives that, you know, slowly
that's a
poison.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you said play.
Well, it was a movie.
But it is a
No,
good movie.
that is a
Back in my,
Yes.
my theater days, we read it as like a class exercise. It was like a theater class, so. But the same thing where it's like it's undetectable. It was most commonly used for women wanting to get out of like horrible marriages.
Women are more likely to poison.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Catherine of Medici, that's what sparked this blog post actually. I was trying to see if there was anything in the newspapers that mentioned her for like fashion or whatever. Like maybe there was like a little mini renaissance of Catherine of Medici's fashions while she was in France or something. No, I just ended up looking at poison and that actually sparked a lot of headlines.
Well, I have a question. What does arsenic start to look like when it starts to degrade?
Well, I mean, but it's also mixed. Like this is a compound, so it's got copper in it too.
Yeah.
So
So an oxidized.
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty.
honestly,
That's why it's green, right?
Oh, so now we're just gonna
Yeah.
dunk the Statue of Liberty into tea.
well, Paris green or Shields green was also used in agriculture as a pesticide
Yeah.
too for in the 1930s.
Yeah,
too.
just like
Yeah.
the example of museum collections, which were like
Mhm.
often fumigated, sometimes with arsenic. Like
Oh.
it kills us, but it also kills bugs. So
I mean, it's the same reason they use asbestos in buildings for years.
That's
Great
a win-win.
insulation, but
Very
turns out it's
durable.
poison.
oh, that reminds me of one that when Jackie brought up this topic of toxic collections, I was like, oh yeah, me and Kelly, who works with me in the museum collections.
Shout out Kelly.
Shout out to Kelly. We were just doing a sort of inventory in the back, and we opened this drawer of minerals,
Oh, no.
and we both looked, and we were like, "Oh, that's asbestos." And so we just put it in a little baggie and labeled the drawer with like contains asbestos, and it was
I
fine.
love the label. It contains.
Oh no,
asbestos.
that's
Oh, yeah.
so common. In,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Yeah, bring
collections.
with like hearts.
Well, yeah.
Cotton pens.
The public library in town is
Sorry.
going through a construction project,
Yeah.
and one of the two buildings is an old historic buildings from the 1800s. The second building that's getting renovated is from 1968, so still old but not historic. Both the buildings were just done for asbestos remediation, and I was working in those buildings for almost 5 years, and
And it's a New Jersey thing too, because it is such an old like area too. Like there just are a lot of buildings that have a lot of asbestos.
It's just a New
It's
Jersey thing. We
crazy.
just work in toxic.
We just we're it's one of the colonial states. Back me up on this.
It is a historic center of industry.
well,
That's
that's
much
things
nicer.
the historic building was definitely toxic to breathe, but the 68 building was like, as long as you didn't like poke the ceiling tiles and have it rain down on you, you were probably
get
safe.
indoor
Yeah, the
snow.
problem is mostly with when it degrades or when you're manufacturing it. So.
Right, like the oldest 1800 building, because they had renovated at one point in the 70s. No, the 50s, and
Yeah.
that's when they put the asbestos in there.
Though I should also clarify,
love
this was like a mineral sample of asbestos. So it was like the rock asbestos, which is really weird. It looks like this like crystal with hairs
Oh,
on it.
so it was labeled already.
No, it
Oh,
wasn't.
was
We just
not?
looked at it, and she and I both happened to know that that's what asbestos looks like when it's
This
just
is like poison ivy.
the way it's supposed. Yeah, exactly. Leaves of green.
Oh, it's
whatever.
so cute. It has
No, it's
It's
not.
not hairs.
I'm not eating it. It's fine, guys.
Cute.
I mean, have you looked at
eating it.
We've not looked at
Include a
enough
picture of
minerals.
asbestos.
I'll include a picture of asbestos
Insert
along with
asbestos
degrading like lesion
The
filled
sores, yeah,
hands.
yeah, yeah.
And maybe Instagram
one's
poll
really
of
cute.
whether or not asbestos is cute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
And the
guys,
lead up.
vote
Yeah.
when this drops.
Yeah,
Go to
while
our
you're there, you should
story.
vote for the DEIA posters too.
Oh my
you know.
god, look at you, Natalie. Look at you, cross promoting legends.
But can anybody vote then? Because this is also reaching outside of Seton Hall.
yes, anyone can vote.
Okay.
We don't discriminate.
verdict.
I need numbers, so please vote. Cast your vote.
That's what we do in libraries. We like data. We like numbers.
Yes.
Democracy matters.
Thank you, Michael.
Vote for that,
Thank you
and
for saying that.
like the
Use your
general
voice.
election.
Use your
That's it.
voice.
Might as well.
Well, we'll talk about that later off pod because that will go down a rabbit hole. But anyway,
Killer Collections, right? That's what we were
Killer
calling
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
so
Alright.
so this Paris green, the Shields green was found in books,
Paint.
in
Well,
paints,
in the bindings.
in the bind,
Well,
in the
in
binding.
book-
of
I don't
cloth.
know. Has it been
Well, they
found
were-
in like
Yes,
illuminations
leather-
yet?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
So
used
book
as
leather
paint, so it
bound.
would
Yeah.
be in like if you painted
you had,
inside
like-
a book,
yeah,
it
yeah.
would be.
I was gonna say Gutenberg, but that's way too old for that.
Well, they might have used mercury for the red.
Yum.
Because that's Cinnabar,
Yum.
right? Which has mercury in it.
Cinnabon?
Cinnabar.
Wait,
One is
Cinnabar,
delicious
like the
and one
Pokemon
is bad for
island.
you.
wait, dude,
Well,
do
they're
you-
both bad for you, but
does everybody know Ryan's
Vermilion.
red pants, which we debate between orange and red?
No.
Like, he
Yeah.
He used to wear them every
he
Friday.
wasn't wearing them in ages.
No, but it's
No, but I've definitely seen them.
we've decided to call it Cinnabar because it was kind of like a reddish
That's
orange,
fantastic.
and it wasn't red, but it wasn't orange, but it was a mix.
I'm looking it up. It was in vermilion.
That's definitely his pants. Those are his pants. 100% those are the pants.
This is like a scarlet. You're gonna have to include an image of this in the
Alright,
too.
I'm
End of Ryan's pants.
Or
How
the
do
very
you guys-
Potter listeners can Google it.
Can I just say, like, what a great idea it was to have a podcast about colors?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
Yeah.
technical.
We have an entire book on like paper marbling, and actually includes samples, and they talk about like Mercury Lake and all that. So
I
it's
love
fun.
that.
But I don't, wash your hands after.
I guess now it's if any of the listeners out there happen to have a book from the 19th century, 18th century, whatever.
That's
You
the,
might be
that's the
wondering if you're-
1700s to the 1800s for people that don't understand that because some
Yes, that is
Thank
true.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Natalie. If you might be wondering if your book is safe, does
Bring it to
anyone wanna-
Jackie.
Yeah. Well, one, maybe we'll take it. Two,
Take it.
two, I think that it should be fine. It's fine.
It should be
Fine.
Bring
Just
it
pass off
in a
your
baggie.
dangerous
Just
books.
don't and
It's
don't lick
fine.
it. And don't lick it.
Don't like it. Or, if you have a Gutenberg Bible, feel free to drop that by too.
Yes, I'll take that. Any Incunabula.
Oh my god,
You know?
everyone is raving. Dean Bushman was also talking about like Gutenberg Bible. I swear.
Well, those things
it's
are
like our
yeah.
white whale.
Well, they keep
I mean,
finding
yeah, because
more.
there's almost none of them.
Yeah.
Well, they
Princeton's
there's like
has
9.
a little illumination of a little dog on the bottom of
Well,
page.
you know
That's
what?
cute.
They're
Yeah.
actually finding them in the waist binding of books.
Mm.
So that's the new thing.
That-
We're like,
Are you joking?
That's rad.
yeah, 'cause
That's
I've
rad.
been, for some reason I follow that just slightly.
Just in case, on the off chance that someone's like willing to auction it for.
Or no, just
Not
give it to us
exorbitant.
because Incunabula are worth like $400,000, and I was like,
Mm.
that's like a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's
you know
the,
what?
who's
It's
the
kind
person
of not
buying it?
though.
Well, okay, well,
That
Depending
we
on
can
the
talk
area.
about that. The housing market.
That's our next
That's
episode.
the housing market.
The housing crisis.
I wanted to go back to if you think you have a book that could be
Yes.
dangerous. Really, most things, even in museum collections and archives, aren't going to kill you immediately.
It's the
so
dose.
it's about like limiting your exposure. So if you're suspicious about it, I think the real thing to do is just wash your hands after you use it.
Don't sleep with it.
Don't sleep with it.
Don't poke your
lick
fork
it.
on it and then
Don't
use it.
Don't lick
maybe
it.
eat while you're reading it. If you're worried about it.
And don't
Yeah.
eat crumbs out of it.
Yeah.
If you drop the crumbs
It-
into the book while you're reading it and
We're
eating.
getting so tired.
From
Yeah.
personal experience.
I mean,
We're
I've
going back
definitely
into
done that.
this.
Yeah.
So I'm not. But
Circling back to the topic.
Yeah, but yeah, just be
We have to get to
Be like respectful of it. Also, not every green book from say the 1830s is
Right. Yeah,
going
that's what I
to
was also
have
going to say.
Shields green in it. I think the Delaware project, the Poison Book Project, they
Yeah.
said that only like 10%.
Yeah,
their
they,
green
they
books
keep a
had it.
list too of
So,
specific editions
yeah.
with specific years, so you could see if it's on there too.
There was one I wanted to cross-reference that we have in the collection,
I love that.
and I just wanted to see.
Yeah, we'll post a picture
Make
of that
sure to
as well.
request
if we
it
find
if,
it.
if it's true.
It's the ancient legends of
No,
Ireland,
not that
right?
one. A different one that I found
Oh.
in their database,
Oh.
and I was like, "Huh, I wonder." And I was gonna go pull it to kind of see if it was green because not every like they could be published by the same person in the same year, but they have different bindings. So like
Right.
it could be brown for all I know. So
and
I was
it's
just
both
kinda
leather
curious.
and cloth bindings would use both.
Yes.
Would use Shields green.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because Jackie told me that the other time we were recording, because I thought it wasn't in leather bound ones because of the tanning process or whatever, but because from
Yeah, that was my
last time I
that was
saw it
my
book
like
cloth, but
curiosity
it
if
doesn't
it
really
Yeah.
if it was both.
Or if you
Because
can-
cloth came after leather, right? As a cheaper way
Yes.
to bind books.
And then, I mean, paper's also in there too. Paper was
Yeah.
also used arsenic because I remember reading something and they're like, yeah, if it was a candy store, they would just put the candy in the arsenic paper and then hand it out.
And it wouldn't, okay, sorry, I'm not a chemist. What like that wouldn't like burn the paper?
No,
No.
no, it's just the dye. I think
It's like a powdered dye, like how you would
Yeah.
dye.
It's likely like the
Like-
printing
like-
on the paper.
Forgive me, like Kool-Aid.
Well, no, like,
Like
have
powder.
you ever done like
I
tie
know a
dye?
little
Like that
bit.
kind of
No,
powder.
like a pigment powder.
Like a pigment powder.
Yeah.
Like, I can only
No,
reference
but yeah,
Kool-Aid.
tie dye. Like if you buy
Yeah, like,
the
you ever done
dyes,
tie-dye?
the packet,
Yeah.
of
And
pigments.
you'd get the little powder in the bottle, or
No, I
You'd have to
the
mix
only
it with
one I would
water.
tie
Yeah.
dye.
It's like
Or
warm
did you
water
already
and it has
have
to
it?
I
dissolve.
thought it was
and then
all
you spray it.
liquid already.
okay,
No.
no, you might have had a different kit. You're good.
Okay, guys, I was like 7 when I tied the like.
It usually comes in like a powder with the
Yeah.
pigment, and then you're supposed to usually do it with warm or probably not hot water. They don't say
Yeah.
hot water so that you don't burn yourself, but warm water, and then shake it up, and then
Yeah.
usually you let it sit for a little bit so
Like
it
eggs.
dissolves.
Little powder packets and pop them in.
Yes, exactly
Like
like powder
Oh,
eggs.
in-
no, like dying eggs.
like
Oh.
Easter.
like Easter.
Oh, okay.
Not the actual eggs. Like, you know, you get the Easter egg little packet kits that comes in little
I
tablets.
don't know.
I was
but
just like,
shit.
hey, that's another way to think about it.
I got her to the point.
Okay, I think we have to wrap
Wait,
up.
yes,
before
I
we
do.
go
Oh,
crazy.
wait. forgot about my
One more story.
Okay.
I was an
Go ahead,
intern somewhere, and it was the boxes were piled next to this wall because the building was like half in the ground, and so it would flood where the boxes were, of course, or condensation because it is actually the earth, and so they moved the boxes, and it was like so black underneath it looked like fire damage, but it was mold, and then there was a little mushroom growing out of the box.
Oh, an
Yeah.
edible one?
No.
Why do you want to eat and lick everything?
It's the
Yeah.
bro. Like, do you know what they do
Oh,
at sites?
I do.
We're not
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah, licking rocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you tell if it's a rock or a bone.
Yep.
That's what
Oh,
they
okay,
always
we're not
say.
gonna go on.
Yeah, we are gonna go
That's
there. I'm
that
sorry.
classic
I'm sorry, Natalie.
Yeah, no.
You tried to rein us in.
Or also geologists, because I spend a lot of time with geologists in my undergrad. They will chew sediment to see what grain size it is, because that's what makes it soil or sand or
Yeah.
whatever.
Clay.
Mhm. Yeah, I was doing
Geologists
that when
are
I was in
great.
Iceland, because like the fresh water, like on the mountains and the volcanoes and stuff, you could drink it. And I just kept doing it. And then like the other people in my group were like, "Why do you keep doing this?" And I'm like, "Oh, because you can, so why not?" And they're like, "But we're stepping
Yeah.
on it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it tastes a little metallic, but it's fine."
It's fine.
That's like when I went to the salt mines in Poland and I said we were licking the walls and stuff. And we were
But
like,
if your books taste like
I'm not.
metal,
I will not
don't
taste the
touch
Okay,
books. That
just-
seems
how about
like
you
a
please
problem.
don't
I'm
lick the
not
books
going
Yeah.
to
because I feel like
I
that
know
could
what paper
open
tastes
up,
like. It's fine.
open up a bad thing for public libraries.
Yeah, don't lick any books.
Yeah.
Don't lick
New,
any books.
old,
Don't eat soil. You're not eating it. You're chewing it. First of all, don't do it anyway if you're not a trained geologist, and probably don't go licking bones or rocks either if you're not a trained archaeologist.
Don't lick unknown surfaces and wash your hands.
But they are known. You know what's wrong?
That's where we're
All right, and with that,
Reason.
we are going to wrap
Thanks for having
on
us.
the Poison Books. Thank you you all so much. If you're curious about any of the things that we talked about, you can always contact us at archives@shu.edu. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
That's it for today's episode of Spooky Stories. We are your hosts, Jackie and Martha. If you enjoyed Spooky Stories, be sure to share and follow us on social media at SHU_libraries. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive and remember, the library holds more than just books. Some stories may linger long after the lights go out.